Hi friends, let's learn how to animate this one. I have used the same techniques to animate this video which you may have seen in my channel. If you are a Blender beginner, please watch my basic Blender videos. Let's start with Blender. Delete the default cube and press Shift A to create a plane. Press Tab to enter into edit mode. Press 3 to face select mode, right click and subdivide. Select a face and click P to separate and choose separate by selection. Do the same for all the 4 faces. Now go to object mode and we can see that we have created 4 different objects. Select all objects, go to edit mode, then face select, select all the faces. Now press E to extrude the faces for a certain height. Now again come to object mode, select any one of the objects, add a bevel modifier to it to make the edges more curved. Change the number of segments to 3 and adjust the amount. Now let's select all the objects using Shift and make the active selection to the object we have added the modifier. The active selection will be highlighted. Then press Ctrl L and click Copy Modifiers. Now we can see that the modifiers have been applied to all the objects. Let's add material to these objects. Click an object, go to the Material tab, click New to add a new material. Change the base color to red. Press Z to go to the material preview. Now we can see the color. Now select all the objects and make the active selection as the red object. Press Ctrl L to link the materials. Now select the second object. Go to the material tab. Here we can see the number of objects the material have been used, and click that to duplicate the material to another material and change that color to green. Similarly, do this for all the objects. Now we have 4 objects. I have used 4 different colors, that is red, green, yellow and blue. Click 0 to see the camera view. You can select the camera and you can adjust it by pressing G in the keyboard. Press N to see the camera item properties, and there you can manipulate the X rotation so that you can correctly align the object to camera. Now Shift A to create a new plane beneath the objects. Scale it up, add a new material to the plane, and you can use white as a base color here. To adjust the lights, go to the rendered view. You already have a light here. Click that and change it to spotlight. You can easily adjust the angle here. To correctly focus the spotlight, you can use Shift plus T to focus the spotlight. Go to the top view and I am duplicating the spotlight, and let's correctly focus this light also to the object so that you can minimize the shadow. To start with the animations, let's go down to the timeline window. Here we can see the number of frames, the start frame, the end frame and the current frame which we are currently standing. Now select the red object and go to the object properties window. Here we can see that location properties. If we slide along the X or Y axis, we can see the position is changing. Now let's move these objects out of the camera frame and go to the location properties. Select the objects, and now we need to set the keyframes. Currently we are in frame 0 and we need to set the keyframe such that when selecting each object you have to set the keyframe by clicking the dot next to the changed value of the location. After specifying all the keyframes, now move the timeline to the 40th frame and enter the value 0 to all the objects and set the keyframe there also. We have specified the location of all the objects as 0 in the 40th frame, which is inside the camera frame. If we click the spacebar, we can see the objects are moving. To rotate these objects, firstly select the blue object, go to frame number 44 and we have to manipulate the rotation. In the Z axis, set the keyframe as 0 degrees, and now go to frame number 52 and change the rotation at Z axis to 360 degree and set the keyframe. If we click the space bar, we can see the animation, but here only the blue object is rotating. We need to rotate all the objects along with the blue object. For all the three objects follow the rotation of the blue object, we have to make all the three objects a child of the blue object. For that, select the red object, go to Object Constraint Properties, select Add Object Constraint and select Child of. Pick the blue object as the target object. Now we need to copy this object constraint to the green and yellow object. For that, select all the objects, make the red object active selection and go to the object constraint and click here to copy to select it. Now if we play the animation, we can see that the three objects have followed the blue object in rotation. But the initial movement is slightly altered. It is because of the influence of the blue object. To correct the influence properties, go to frame number 0 and select the child objects. For example, here I am selecting yellow and go to Object Constraint Properties. Here in the Influence tab, we can see the blue object has total influence on yellow. We need to reduce it. Now I am clicking it to 0 and keyframing it in the frame number 1. We need to repeat this for all the three objects and now come to frame number 41. Again, select the red object and keep the influence factor as 0 and make a keyframe in the 41 frame. And now come to 42nd frame. Now change the influence factor to 1 and make a keyframe in the 42nd frame. Repeat the process for the green and yellow objects. To make the animation more smoother, select the window as Graph Editor and select the blue object. Now we can see that there is a red curved line here. This is the graph for the first linear motion of the blue object. To make it more smoother, select the handle and elongate it so that the first transition is more smoother. Repeat this process for all the three objects to make the linear motion more smooth. To see the difference, play the animation. Now we can see that the objects first came in a fast manner, then slows down to join it to a square and then moves out of the frame. You can also change the timing of the animation. You can click and drag the keyframes so that easily you can extend the animation. Here I am extending the timing to 80 frames so that the animation is more smoother. Now I am entering the end frame as 80. To render this animation, go to Render Properties and make sure that the render engine is Eevee and then come to Output Properties. Select the output file location, then specify the name of the file and the location we want to save it. In the file format section, instead of PNG, select the file format as FFmpeg video. Then in the encoding section, we can see that the video codec is H.264 and the output quality is medium quality. Now go to render and click render animation. It will start rendering and after finishing it, you can see the file in the specified file location. If you find this video useful, like, share and comment. For more updates, subscribe my channel.